So here we are with exercise 36 now, and we're in section now number 4. This section is going to be about, probably be a shorter section, but it's going to be about ellipses. So we're going to work with the wonderful ellipse, the oval, if you will, and I'll show you why they're pretty difficult in perspective and why they're useful in just drawing. Because if you've seen one of my basics in the basic section lectures about the ellipse, it really is everywhere. So I want to show you the understanding now formally why an ellipse is an ellipse, how we can put it into a square, a flat square, and then a dimensional square in perspective, both 1 and 2 point, and we can draw a circle within that square, which is really an ellipse. It's just a circle in perspective. And so if you can draw squares in perspective, which you know you can now, you can draw ellipses, and there's some little extra guidelines you want to know about the major and minor axis and the true half of a circle in perspective and the perspective half, which is both a little bit different. And so I'll show you that today. So that's going to be what's coming up. So I'm going to pull in here a little closer so we can really see. And I'm just going to put a horizon line about right here. Feels good. So it's a little bit higher in your picture plane. So I'll lay that through here. Here's my horizon line in through here. And I'll put a vanishing point roughly in the middle. I'll put my paper's 24 across, so I'll just put it at 12. And I'll line up the camera to make that pretty much a center. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty good in the camera. Okay, so we have that. That's important now. So the first thing I want to show you is in perspective here. I'm going to actually draw a little guideline for us coming down. It could be your center of vision, but I'm just going to draw it as a guide. So from the vanishing point down, it's going to be really ultra light and just all the way down through the camera. That way I can set up my square nice and even. We won't get so much distortion. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw an equal square down, and I'm going to measure that. Let me just draw the line first so you can see that. Right here, it looks pretty good. I'll just draw a horizontal line across, and then we'll make this about, let's see, yeah, let's make it 3 inches. So 1.5 inches kind of from the middle. So 1 and then 1/2 inch, and then 1 and then 1/2 inch there. So I'll darken that in. So that's 3 inches across, right in through there. Okay, now we can do two things. We can just bring a horizontal down, we can measure that, or we can draw a 45-degree angle. I kind of like to do that just to show you that. So I'll draw some basic horizontals down, or excuse me, verticals down, or up and down that way. And then we can put a 45 in. So let me get my 45, 45, 90 over here in the wilderness of my cluttered big drafting desk. You guys can't see, but off camera it's a mess out here, but that's okay. It's all good. And so we'll get a 45 going, and essentially you just line up your 45 along here. I've got it along my teeth square, and we'll line it up to the corner edge here, and we'll just draw lightly that red line across. Okay, and then where it touches our vertical line here, that's the same length as the horizontal across. So now we have a perfect 3 inch by 3 inch square. And if you don't believe me, go back and measure, and you see there it is. It's 3 inches there, right, and then 3 inches down there. Or you could have just measured and brought it over, but I like to use that. Or you can swing a compass, a radius over, and do it that way. Boy, there's a lot of different ways to get that. So let me darken this in. There's some important. So we're starting out with a flat square. Okay, we're starting out with a flat square in perspective, and we want to get a circle in here to work with. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take it by halves here. So let's draw a bisecting half. We'll find its true center in perspective. We could measure it, or we could just do our crossing X. Right there is its center. Okay, and then we'll come through with a line. It's important that it bisects, touches, okay, here and here. There's its true half. So I'm going to overdraw here just a little bit, just to show you, because we're not using any perspective for this first little demo here. We're just using flat space to get an understanding. So this area here, this flat area is its true half, okay, or its flat half. We'll just call it right now its flat or true half, okay, in perspective. So we're good there. All right, so we've got some touching points already. We have a touching point here, we have a touching point here, touching point there, and a touching point there. We can make actually a few, I think, more touching points as well. And I'll show you how we can do that. So we can take crossing X from each side here, okay, or each quarter, right in through there. So let's do that. Let's take a crossing X there, okay, and there, and here. It's like putting another square on a diagonal here, and it's still flat, and also there. Okay, so we have that. Now, this represents half here. So from this distance, this represents half, okay? Now, about a half, another half, or which would be a quarter, right in through here. Let's take that and we can measure that, or we can just draw that. About right in here where you make a tick mark, that circle is going to bisect as we draw. We're going to draw the first one with the compass. It's going to touch about right here, but on the inside edge of that mark that you make. Now, full disclosure, this is a helping guide. There are times when, and you want to be as accurate as you can to get this quarter mark, right? This is a quarter, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just make sure of that. Of course, it's an eighth, or it's an eighth if you want to go all the way through. Just be careful of that. Know that as a rule. And I'm going to pull in a little bit now so we can see it closer. Push up my board a little bit higher too, so you can see that. Get that nice and clean in there. We'll come in a little bit further so you can see this. So again, we had our true half, right? Bisected down. Then we put another from our center points across here. Okay, that, or centering X if you find. That helps us locate half, and then we can find that quarter. Now that circle, as we draw it, should come on the inside of that mark. Again, full disclaimer, sometimes I break that rule when I'm drawing freehand because it doesn't necessarily always look as correct as I want it. And I'll probably demonstrate that too as well. Some artists hold to that rule and it looks a little awkward. I don't necessarily do that. So I'm going to line up my compass from the center, and we're going to find our center point of our circle in through here, and then we're going to draw through. See how it comes on just slightly on the inside there, and that's a little bit even really far in. So let's see how, okay, we're a little bit off there, over and high. So I'll just back my compass a little bit and make sure we get in there pretty close and be more accurate. So I'm going to erase here, okay. Down and through. So we have to watch that pencil point a little bit. There we go. So I'll line this up again, get close to the center as I can. Right in through here. A little bit further out, and that should come in. So we'll line this up. See how we're doing here. And there, that's a little bit better coming through. That's still a little bit tight on the inside, but that's okay. There we go. Pretty close in there. So I'm running my compass in through here. There we go. So you can see where I guesstimated half right in through here. See how it comes a little bit on the inside, but a little, I think a little far, even for me. So I always tell my students to be careful. Use these marks, but use them as slight guides. So true half, if I come back, I'll take my Japanese mono a little bit, could have been pushed in a little bit more as a guide. Let me do them in red so you can really see them. So we've just put a circle in a square. So right here and right here is true half. Let me get this back right in through here. And we want to come as best you can just slightly inside inside to fit that circle inside that mark. Now we have a nice clean circle within that square. I think that's pretty important to denote. Okay, so let's now take this drawing. Let me pull out a little bit with the camera. Let me go wider. And now let's take this flat device, or this flat square, and now let's put it in more in perspective. So we're going to go from our 1 point vanishing point. Here's our VP up here, 1 point, right? It also happens to be our center of vision. 2 as well. And let's come out from the corners of our flat square, from our VP down through our bottom corners here. We're going to project this out here, out. So I'll just draw it out decently wider now, here and there. And so now I'm just going to make a good educated guess as to where a 45 would be across here, because I don't have a station point to help me out. So I'm just taking it based off my notes, and I'd say about right in through here looks pretty good. So I'm going to put a dot here to show you that. Right, maybe a little bit closer. Right in through there. Nice big healthy dot. And so let me come in just a little bit, and then we'll pull this down. Let's see her go up so you can see it. There we go. That's better. Come in a little bit further. Now I'm guesstimating that 45. And again, that 45 would go obviously right through the corner of our form, because half of that 90 is 45. So now we're coming back through there, and of course we're going off at a 45-degree area. Okay, so that gives us the square now in perspective on the ground right there. So we'll tighten this up a little bit, darken this up so we can see this. Okay, with our ellipse. And I have a healthy understanding, because when you draw them freehand, which you will 95% of the time, and it's so much more glorious and easier and fun, you want to know the structure behind what you're understanding, and that's why we take great pains to do this. We want to make you educated and not ignorant. So we're going to find now half in perspective, right in through there. There we go. Okay, so there's half. We got that cleaner. All right, and now we're going to bring over our perspective half, and this is where it's going to get interesting. So through this center point right there, there's our perspective half in perspective. So that is a true in perspective half of the circle, or what's going to be our ellipse. So I'm going to put perspective, PRSP half here. Okay. So I'm going to show you why that is, and then how we're going to change that in a little bit. All right, so I'm going to bring now this line over, my back line, nice and over, and I'll bring it further over here as well. Okay, so we're pretty much on the camera. So this is the true length of the square now in perspective. Okay, now our true half is true half of the circle. Perspective, our flat or true half, we're going to put over here. That's the length of this line, period. So we want to get that truly correct. And so what I want to do is put down a red line here to show you. So that length, and then truly half of that length looks like it's about right there. Now I could even measure it to be super accurate. Okay, this is why it's longer to draw an ellipse in perspective. So it is 1 inch and 1/8, inch and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8, and so we're going to come down and make that an inch and let's see, so 5/8. So we're going to see what that true half is. It's a 1/2 inch, and then we come over 1, 2, almost 3/8. So it's a 1/2 inch plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/16 right in through there. So 1 5/16. It gives me a nice, pretty accurate half. Now I'm going to bring that across, and you're going to see that it's a little bit lower. Now watch this. So as I bring that true half or flat half over, I'll label it here so we can see that. So that's the true half of this line, right, which is the length of our square in perspective. That's the true center we're going to use for a bisecting touch line. How about that? Isn't that pretty wild? That's pretty amazing to think about. So we're going to be using that as our guide in through here when we curve along. Okay, so that's important. Now keep that in mind. I know that gets a little confusing. Okay. Take a drink there. Now let's find, with our perspective here, let's find our centers in perspective. Here and over to here to help us with our half marks. Gives us a guide through. Right through there. Excuse me. Through the true perspective half. Make sure I confuse the perspective half. So we'll take that off so you can see my mistakes too. I make mistakes too because it's complex. It'll get easier. The more you do, these will get easier, and then you'll have a better understanding of how, when you draw them more accurately in freehand, how you're getting them. That's the point of formal perspective. Stay with the course. All right, so now we take in perspective. We have half here. Now to find the other half, we find that true half in between. And I'm just guesstimating for now because we want to kind of go inside that best we can. So true half over here, true half over here, and true half over here to get us in perspective. Now we have our touching points. So this is our half in perspective. Here's our true half to get a touching point here, but then we have a touching point with our true halves over here and also our edge. So all points of that contacting area, we want to just hit, come on the inside of that and just hit as we draw our ellipse in perspective. Okay, here's the fun part. Probably the hardest part, I think, in perspective drawing is to drawing some pretty good ellipses. And get out your erasers. Get out your kneaded eraser because you may need that, and also I've got my handy Japanese mono erasers. This one and my other one that went somewhere, flew the coop somewhere. And my goodness awful, terrible, dirty desk, but that's okay, I don't need it as much. All right, so get ready for those and I'll show you if you make a mistake, because I'll make a mistake and I'll correct it. So I'm just going to start. So you kind of want to keep it loose. You want to work that curve over here. So that touching point's right there that I'm coming over through here. Okay. Kind of working my way through that helps you with that curve. And here's my touching point along my true half. That's where I'm curving for over there. Curving for. Right in through there. That's where it touches, then it curves. It's coming on around. And you want your curve to be, now you're going for your half mark right inside it the best you can. Sometimes I alter that if it doesn't look so correct. Right in through there, we'll come in. Then we're going to keep on curving. It's a long curve, isn't it? Long curve, long curve. Get over there to that touching point, right in the center. And this might be a little flat. I can go back and check it later on. Then we're going to go, we're trying to fall inside here. Take it light. I'm barely touching down, and I get a little bit more confident. And I come in through there. Okay. I kind of come on the inside. Keep on coming around. And then we've got our true half we want to touch, not our perspective half. It's a little bit different. It's confusing. I got confused when I was a student. You'll get the hang of it. Hopefully I haven't confused you. If you have, email me. Let me know what's going on. I can help you out best I can. Describe it through. Right in through there it touches. Here where the red line, I have that dot. Then we start curving over, and we want to start to make a move to come on the inside. Just not on the outside. See, it's very slight. I want to come on the inside of that best I can. It's just a guide. And then we'll take a look at what I wrought, and I'll critique it and see where I can make it a little bit better. I rarely get it the first time. And it's sketchier because we're not using a compass, and that's the point. That flat one was pretty easy above, right? If you can't use a compass, you might be in trouble. That's pretty decent up here. I like what I'm going here. I like this. I don't like this this line in my ellipse, and so I'm going to alter this a bit. Let me show you a couple of techniques. Is take your kneaded eraser, just smash it up, get it nice or smash it apart, stretch it apart, get it cleaned up a little bit. Then I take a little extra bit off, and I just kind of glaze it over. So I'm going to glaze over this to clean that up, because we can still see through that, so I can get a cleaner residual line to work on, because I've still got a kind of a guide there. Now it's a little flat. I like this curve, but it's a little flat right here. That means that I'd like to have a little bit more curve longer, right? Not too much more, but right in through there to touch over, and it starts to get a little bit dark. So that looks pretty good in terms of my elbow. Not bad. I like that. Not bad for the first one. Although I still think I'm going to be super critical here. Come back over and hit right close to that touching point. Theoretically, that's the only place where it's supposed to touch. Of course, with our pencil tips, they get a little bit thicker to a 1/16 or so. So not bad. Not bad for our first ellipse. Okay, so let's review that a little bit, and we'll go on to do some standing ellipses. And then I'll freehand one out here before we leave and show you how it's even easier. We can take this into account. So a couple things now is I want to show you the major and minor axis of this too as well. In our true flat half, that is also our major axis right in through here. So this is our major axis sitting across the form. And generally what you want with an ellipse, you always want actually with an ellipse, is to have an equal side, because it's equal here, completely equal. So this is the major axis coming across this way, right? And so we have an equal side to that, right in through here. So this is major, in through here, major, in through here. So I'll put major down, major axis. Okay, the minor axis, since we're in flat perspective, will come through here. Okay, like so. We have it like so. So that's our minor axis, and you can start to think of the minor axis as a wheel axle. Okay, and I think that's important since this is pretty flat. And the same thing here coming out of it. So right in through, not the perspective half, but our true half is where our minor axis comes out of. These are at 90 degrees, always 90 degrees. So major and minor are at 90 degrees. We'll do the same thing now here, coming through, and that will give you a better guide too as well, because you want all of these sides to generally be equal, like an equal pie. Keep that in mind. All sides are more equal, and that's why we find that true half when we draw ellipses in perspective. That's going to be very important. Of course, this is a 90-degree angle right in through there. So let me pull out a little bit. And so that is an ellipse now in perspective, and it's hard. It is. It's terribly hard. It's not easy, and it's cumbersome, but you're going to need times when you need that, and there are times when you'll gesture that a little bit and be a little bit lighter and be a little bit looser with it. You don't need to be so exacting. But you're also learning now the reasons why ellipses exist and how they can be controlled with squares. Now let's take an ellipse and let's freehand it. Let me freehand it over here. So I'll just draw one. Make sure I'm in the camera here. And it's so much easier when you freehand, because we're lighter, we're looser, we don't have those touching points, but we can feel those touching points enough to feel an ellipse over through here. So now we have one over and through here, and we know that we can start to find our major and minor axis. So our major axis is right dead through center, right in through there. So we find our major axis, okay, right in through there, right in through there. So that's our major. Our minor axis, of course, that's our true center. So you could come back and say, okay, maybe this needs to be in my ellipse just a little bit wider in through here as we curve over. Maybe that's a little bit narrower. And then our minor axis, remember, it acts like a wheel axis, so we're right through the middle here. It looks pretty comfortable as we estimate, because that's what we really want to get to. We want to get to this understanding so we can do this a little bit more freehand. And then our minor axis comes up, acts like the axle of a wheel here and here, and of course this is now at 90 degrees. So draw a lot of ellipses, do quite a bit of them. So we'll do another one, and that might be a little bit different in perspective than that one. So we'll do maybe another one over here. Maybe we were closer to the horizon line as they get flatter. The further they get out, the wider the square will be and the more circular it will look. So I've got one there. I've got one, maybe it would look closer to, somewhat closer to a circle when we get even flatter. Let's do one. Let's do another one. Make sure we're in the camera. Let's do another one here. All right. See how loose and gestural you can be, and you tighten that up later, even later on. So these are all ellipses. They have different squares, and there could be closer to their horizon line or off, and then you can simply find their major and minor axis. The major axis is the true half, the true flat half, where both this is equal to here, right? And then the minor axis is directly in the middle at 90 degrees, and in this case coming up, since these are not tilted. So minor axis there, minor, of course, and then major axis here, major, right, and then of course we're at 90 degrees here, and we can do this over here. So about half. What's its true half? You could take this measurement, that measurement over, and you can say what's true half, right in through there. Okay, and then we're coming over. There's our major, and of course our minor in the middle. Major and minor axis. So minor axis there, major axis there, and of course that's at 90 degrees. And we'll do the last one here. So where's our major at? Here. Right in through there. And then half of that true half, about right. It's not here, it's not here, about true half of that. Or you could draw a line out here to help you out and then measure that line and find its half, but I just kind of estimate it right in through there. There's our major axis coming on through, right through there. There's major, and then minor is true half of vertical here, right, dead center in the middle of our true half, not our perspective half. There it is. True half means flat, just remember that, and that's our minor, and there you go. So we have true formal perspective ellipse now, and then we have various freehand studies. You're going to find that the more you can do this pretty well, you're going to get to these, pretty easy. And the trick is practice. Practice a whole heck of a lot, so you really understand, well what you're doing. Because you could put. Let me go deeper here and really make this accurate. You could put this into a little box here, right? Even when they're in perspective, because you want all of these areas to be equal in your drawing. 1/2, 1/2, and 1/2. That's going to be very, very, very important in your drawing. And you see how these are half now in perspective. That's why we push that true half. We draw our true half. Our perspective half is different, and so you take that measurement of your perspective in your square, right, in perspective, right, which is over here, and then bring it over to your whatever your measurement is for your true half. So make sure that you leave this lecture today understanding that concept really well. The difference between the perspective half and the true half. For instance, you could come back over here and say, you know what, I need to re-correct this a little bit. So if that's where I want my ellipse, this is a little short, and I can make this a little wider, a little curved, a little stronger, and that makes this a better ellipse now. And so that will That will help you immensely. Just remember, these are at 90 degrees. Always, your major and minor axis in perspective are at 90 degrees. Okay, let's go on to the next diagram, and let's do some now side plane views standing up of 1-point ellipses. Okay?